Global Tel Link prepaid call from
James.
an inmate at Southern Correctional Institution. This call will be monitored and recorded for customer assistance, collection, or complaint procedures, or to block future calls. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Welcome back, James.
Welcome, James. Welcome back to Inmate T, James. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good. So just to catch our viewers up, James has been featured on our episodes multiple times. He's walked us through the structured sentencing here in North Carolina. He's also walked us through his first day in prison after he was convicted of a life sentence. And today we're going to talk about that conviction.
Okay, James. So let's give our viewers some of your backstory. So what area are you from?
I'm from Pembroke, North Carolina, a small town in Robeson County.
Okay. And were you raised in a two-parent home or raised by one parent?
Well, off and on throughout my childhood, my dad was in and out of my life. He would be there and then he would be gone because he was out whoring on my mom. My mom was the main provider and the sole person in my life.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
Got it. And then how many siblings do you have?
I have two brothers and one full sister.
Okay.
And I have a little brother that we adopted later on when I got older.
Okay. And then in school, were you a good student? Did you go to school? Did you make good grades? Were you involved?
Oh yeah, well, I made good grades. I was an A and B student up until maybe 10th grade.
Okay, that's good. And then in the home, as you were, when you were younger with your siblings, did you ever witness any violence in the home when your dad was there?
Yeah, my dad, he liked to drink alcohol. He was an alcoholic. And, I love my dad, but there was times that my dad would get violent and him and my mom would get into altercations. And that was one of the reasons that my mom left my dad, because my dad would get violent and he would beat me. He beat me a couple times, and one time in particular, he beat me and put me in the hospital by busting my head. Another time, he beat me with a guitar cord and cut the side of my face really bad. And that drove my mom to leave him because she feared that he was going to beat me to death.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And was he violent with your mother?
Yeah, there was several times that, him and my mom would get into physical altercations. There's one time in particular when I was a kid that him and my mom were separated, and me and my mom and my baby brother, Aaron, we were at home. And he come to the house, and him and my mom was arguing over the house. And my mom went out on the porch because she wouldn't let him come in the house. And he come up on the porch and kicked the sliding glass door and busted it. So when he busted the sliding glass door, my mom come out of the house and they started fighting. And he was beating my mom. And my baby brother was standing in the couch looking out the window, and he was screaming, "He's beating my mama, he's beating my mama." And I was a kid. I was like 14. I was scared to death. So my mom had bought me a shotgun the year prior for Christmas. And I didn't know what to do, so I went in the room and I got the gun and I loaded it and I come out. And when I come out, my dad had my mom by the front of her shirt and he had hit her. And I was like, "Hey, don't hit my mama no more." And he said, "What did you say, boy?" And I had the gun pointed down and I raised the gun up and pointed it at him. I said, "Don't hit my mama no more." And he's like, what? I said, if you hit my mama again, I'm going to shoot you. And he just looked at me and he turned my mama loose and he walked backwards down the steps. And my mom turned around and she walked in the house. She was like, put that gun up, Pa. And I told her, I was like, if he hits you again, Mom will shoot him. And my dad just walked out of the yard and he left. He was like, I can't believe you. And that's one specific time that, like, that kind of changed my perspective of my dad.
Right.
Right. What about beyond that? Did you have any kind of criminal history before this charge that you're incarcerated for now?
Well, I had a lot of fights because in school, you know, I got picked on sometimes because of my clothes, because my mom didn't have the money to be able to buy us stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
She struggled. She was a single parent, so I would get picked on and, you know, I would fight. So throughout school, yeah, I got in trouble. And, you know, at like 14, 15, I was rebellious like every teenager, so I left home. I got into streets.
Mm-hmm.
I started selling drugs, and I got caught up at like 16 years old for selling drugs. And I ended up going to, you know, juvenile prison per se for 6 months. And that's the only charge I've ever had other than fighting.
And that was a
You know,
drug
I got
charge?
caught for
That was for drugs?
yeah, possession of
Okay.
possession of crack cocaine by
Okay.
by a minor.
Okay. And what are you actually convicted of right now?
Today, I am in prison for first degree murder.
Okay. And did you do it, James?
No, I did not commit this crime. I've been in prison on April the 24th will start 20 years for a crime that I did not commit.
What are the courts? What is, you know, if anybody looks this story up, what are they going to see
I
that you're convicted of doing?
I was convicted. I was convicted of driving my.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
I was convicted of driving my car into the Michaels parking lot in Pembroke, North Carolina. They said that I called the victim, Clem Jones, up to my car. He walked up to my car. He stuck his arm and his head into my car, and I shot him in the chest area with a 12-gauge shotgun. That's what they convicted me of.
Okay. All right. And then let's get into what actually happened. Walk us through, starting with the events leading up to this, what they're saying was an altercation that ended somebody's life.
Okay. On the day of March 31st, 2006, I woke up at approximately 4:30, and me and some other guys, we went to Waco Locklear's house for work. We left Waco Locklear's house and drove to the Seven Lakes to build houses. Throughout that day, we worked, and when we left work about 12:30. We left the job, and we stopped at the store and bought some beer and some cigars. We rode home. We left there. We went to John Dale's and picked up the beer. So while we were going to get the beer, we seen a guy walking, and we stopped. Brandon knew the guy, so we stopped and picked him up. And the guy asked me to take him to Strickland Heights. So I took him to Strickland Heights to supposedly his girlfriend's house. He gets out of the car and walks up there, and he gets in an altercation. So he comes back to the car. He's like, hey, I can't stay here. So I tell him, I'm like, look, man, I don't know where you want to go, but I got to go. So he gets back in the car. I take him back up the road and drops him off at the house. At this house, he goes in, and Brandon goes in for a few minutes. Brandon comes back out, gets in the car. I'm rolling a blunt. So I'm rolling the blunt, me and Brandon leaves. So Brandon and the guys get in an altercation. So me and him leaves, and I go across the railroad track, and the guy, he goes back to the house. When I got back to the house from dropping Brandon off, there was Kim, a young lady named Shalane, which is deceased now, Jamie, and Josh, Kim's brother, my cousin Thomas, and Kim. So when I got there, I went in the house, and Thomas and Kim, they were getting ready to leave to go to Pembroke to get something to eat. So I went in, I sat down, and I smoked a high volume of marijuana. So you're going to hear me say I smoked a lot of it.
We've heard a lot.
So
every turn there's marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I sat down and I started rolling a blunt, and we're sitting there smoking. Me, Shalane, Josh, Jamie, we're sitting there smoking this blunt. And while Thomas and Kim's going to Pembroke, it's like 7, maybe 7:30, 7 o'clock, somewhere in there. And we're sitting there smoking, and my cousin Sheila Ann, she lives next door. She comes over and she asked me, she's like, "Cousin Pig, can you give me some grass until I get some?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I give her some, and she hits the blunt. We're just sitting there chilling. So during this time,
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
How do you know?
Thomas and them,
That's all he's been talking about,
Thomas and
smoking
them
weed.
Sorry, continue.
Thomas and them comes home. We were just chilling. We were all just chilling, watching TV. And I remember the show, My Wife and Kids, with Damon Williams and his son.
Mm-hmm.
It come on, and we watched that movie. We watched that show, and the movie White Chicks. If y'all remember the movie White Chicks with the Upper Wings brother and Terry Crews, it had just come out. So this was the big talk. So my cousin Thomas had rented that movie. So we put that in and we watched that movie. So while we were watching the movie, we sat there and watched that movie and smoked and drank and just chilled. And after the movie, it was like maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So at this time, the news come on. So Thomas was watching the news, and he was like, "Man, did y'all know something happened in Pembroke?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, Derek Michaels, somebody got shot." And he was like, "Somebody got shot or something at Michaels." And I'm like, "Yeah."
What is Michael's?
And
Is it a restaurant?
Michael's was a sub restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a sub restaurant where, they make some of the best subs I've ever ate.
Okay.
He's like an Italian guy. He's really good. He made really good food.
Okay, I just wanted to verify because I didn't know if you meant Michael's, the arts and crafts store, and I didn't know if something was going down at Michael's.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't even think those were around back then.
Oh, okay.
But okay, so while he's telling us about this, breaking news comes on the news. Man shot and killed at Michael's restaurant in Pembroke. So when they say this, the guy's face pops up on the news. And I'm sitting there watching the news. I'm like, huh?
Did you know this guy that they showed on the news that had been killed?
That's what I was just to tell you, that the person that popped up on the news was the guy that I had just picked up earlier and dropped off at this house. And I look at Thomas and Kim and them, and I'm like, "Oh shit, that's the dude that me and Brandon picked up and dropped off at this house."
Did you know him at all prior?
Yeah.
At all? Like, had y'all done anything together?
I had never seen this guy before in my life.
Why did
The
you pick him
reason
up
we
again?
stopped and picked, the reason we stopped and picked him up was Brandon had grew up with the guy. The guy Brandon that was with me, he had stopped. We stopped and picked him up because Brandon knew the guy. And later on, as my case progressed, I found out that me and the guy's cousin had went to school together, and we were really good friends, but I'd never met this guy in my life.
So you just went to pick this guy up because your cousin knew him and you dropped him off somewhere, and that was
Well,
the only interaction you've ever had with this guy.
yeah, that's the only time I ever seen the man in my life.
And the only other time that you've seen this guy is on the news. You're watching the news, his face pops up, and come to find out he had been murdered at Michael's.
Michael's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, from there, James, what happened?
Okay. So life was normal. We just continued, we get high. I fall asleep in the chair. So like 3 days, 4 days later, my mom, I'm on my way home from work. My mom calls me and I'm like, yeah. She's like, Pa, she said, you know something about a murder? And I'm like, a murder? She's like, yeah. Your Aunt Judy Lynn called me and said that somebody come looking for you and said that you need to contact the police. And I'm like, for what? So she's like, about this murder. I said, I don't know nothing about no damn murder. So a couple, matter of fact, that day that my mom called me, we're at my cousin Thomas's house putting down water lines. So a couple hours later, she calls me back. And she's like, son, she said, the police is at my house. They got my house surrounded. And I'm like, they got your house surrounded? She said, yeah. She said, they got my house surrounded. She said, they're pointing guns in the windows. My youngin just looked out the window and they had a gun in his face.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
And she's like, yeah. She said, they're at the door right now. So when she opens the door, a law officer named S.B. Sullivan is telling my mom he's there looking for me. And my mom's like, he's not here. And he's like, well, can we search your house? And my mom's like, what? And I can hear my mom talking to him on the phone. And she's like, no, you can't search my house. I'm telling you, he's not here because he's right here on the phone. So the man asked, well, can I talk to him? And my mom's like, yeah. So he gets on the phone and he's like, it's a special agent, B.T. Sullivan, with the North Carolina FBI. And I'm like, yeah, what are you doing at my mom's house? So he's like, we're looking for you. Where are you at? And I'm like, I'm on the phone. And he's like, well, we know you killed this man. We're coming to get you. You need to. And I'm like, man, listen, I don't know nothing about what you're talking about. I haven't killed nobody. Y'all need to leave my mama's house. I'm not there. And he's like, well, you need to come and see us. And I'm like, no, get out of my mom's house. So he gives my mama back the phone. And my mama's like, son, you want to go see these people? And I'm like, yeah. I said, but tell them if they leave, I'll come to the Pembroke Police Department and talk to them. So at this time, they leave. And my mama's still on the phone. She's like, where you at, son? I said, I'm at Thomas's. So she's like, well, we'll go. She said, I'll go with you. She said, we'll go to the Pembroke Police Department and talk to them. I'm like, okay. I said, are you sure? She's like, yeah. She said, you need to clear your name if you didn't do this. And I'm like, okay. So she meets me at Best Fuels. My cousin Thomas, he drives me up there and drops me off. I get in the truck with my mom. So my mom's driving a different vehicle than they're expecting her to be driving. So I get in the back seat of the truck and I lay down and I cover up with an Army field jacket. So we go to the
Why
Pembroke
did you do
Police
that?
Department.
What was the purpose?
Well, my mom told me she wanted to go and speak to these people before I went there and actually revealed myself, because she wanted to see what their mindset was.
Okay.
Okay.
So
you were
when
going
she
to hide
goes
out
up
in the
there,
car until she talked to them first. Is that right?
until she talked to them and
Okay.
seen their mindset.
Okay.
So she went up there and she spoke to them. She asked them a question. You know, I could hear her talking to them. She's like, "What are y'all going to do to my son if I go get him?" And they're like, "We want to question him." She's like, "So y'all are not going to try to lock him up? Y'all not going to, you know, assault him or anything like that?" And they're like, "No, we want to talk to him. We want to talk to him." So my mom was like, "Okay, I'm going to go pick him up." So we rode down the road. I got in the front seat and we come back. So when we get to the Pembroke Police Department, I get out and I walk in. I go in there and we sit down. So B.T. Sullivan, he comes in and, oh my God, they just drag us out. They're walking in and out, bullshitting, doing a lot of bullshit.
Is it you and
And
your
it's
mom, or is it
already
just
like,
you?
yeah, it's me and my mom. My mom's sitting beside me.
Okay.
So now, finally, he comes in and he sits down. And he starts the interview. He asked my mom her name and, you know, took a statement from my mom, you know, what she had been doing, how she had been interacting with me that evening.
Mm-hmm.
So then he turns to me and he asks me, you know, my name, my birth date and everything. And he asked me my whereabouts on March 31st, 2006. So I tell him pretty much the same thing I just told y'all. I went to work, I come home, all that. I gave him a full detailed statement.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay in there for hours. They go buy pizza and offer to give me pizza. And I'm like, "Listen, I don't want nothing from you. I just want to go. I gave you my story. I want to go home. I'm tired." Because I've been working all day.
Mm-hmm.
So they let me go. I leave. I go home. So they call my mom and tell my mom like 3 days later that they want me to go to Fayetteville and do a polygraph test. So I'm like, okay. So I take a half a day off of work, and me and my mom meets the captain of the Pembroke Police Department, Dwayne, and we go to Fayetteville. They take us to Fayetteville to the SBI station. Okay, when I get there, there's a man in there named Pierce J. Long. And he sits me down, and I sit down in this chair, and he starts asking me about smoke.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
He asks me, have I ever smoked marijuana? Am I under the influence of marijuana? So on and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, I smoke marijuana every day. And he starts, you know, just asking me a bunch of off-the-wall questions. And I'm like, look, I'm here to take a lie detector test to clear my name from this crime y'all saying I committed.
Thank you for using Global Tail Link.
Okay, James, before we were interrupted, yes, let's pick back up. You're at the SBI with the SBI agent. He is about to conduct a polygraph, and...
Okay. Yeah, I'm at the Fayetteville SBI station with, like I said, Pierce J. Long. And he's supposed to be conducting a polygraph test. But it's like he's sitting there interrogating me all over again. So I'm pretty much telling him the same thing that I told in my first statement, you know, that I was at my cousin Thomas's smoking marijuana, drinking, and watching these TV shows and movies. And the first time that I knew anything about this man's death was when I seen his picture on the news. So he's like, he looks at me and he's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, you can't do what? He's like, I can't give you a polygraph test because you're high on marijuana. And I'm like, no, I'm not high. He's like, well, you've been under the influence in the past 24 hours. So I'm like, okay. And I walk out. So the guy, D.T. Sullivan, he comes out and he's like, if you want to clear your name, you won't smoke no more marijuana. And you'll be ready to do another one. You'll be willing to give us another opportunity for a polygraph in 3 days. So my mom's sitting there. She's like, we just come here to do a polygraph. And he's like, yeah, but he's high on marijuana. We don't want to do it, da-da-da-da. So I'm like, okay, I'll go 3 days and we'll have another one. So I go home. I go 3 days without smoking marijuana. And we have...
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
Did you really go 3 days without smoking, or you just told him you did?
No, I really went 3 days without smoking marijuana.
Okay.
I did what I had to do to try to prove my innocence.
Right.
So I go to the Pembroke Police Department. My boss man, Ross Lowry, dropped me off.
Okay.
So when he drops me off, they were smoking. He smoked marijuana. It's like everybody I hung out with smoked reefer. Mm-hmm. So he's smoking a joint like a couple hours before, but the truck smells like reefer. Right. So my clothes has a stench of it.
Oh, God.
So I go in there, I sit down, I wait for like an hour, and then they take me in there. So this man, Pierce J. Long, and B.T. Sullivan is sitting in there. And I sit down in the chair. They got the little machine, and they're having some kind of complications with the machine at first. So finally, they got some guy working on it. They get it right working. So I'm waiting on them to hook me up again. So I'm like, y'all ready? Y'all gonna hook me up? I'm ready to do this. So they're like, you high on marijuana? I'm like, no. I just went 3 days under not smoking where I could take this. I said, y'all said I couldn't be under the influence of marijuana within 24 hours. I said, I've been 3 days without smoking. Can we take the test? So he's like, we want to talk to you first. So they go to interrogate me again, asking me the same questions they've asked me 2 previous times, and I give them the same answers. So they start getting mad. And the man, B.T. Sullivan, he's like, you read the Bible? And I'm like, yeah. Do you believe in God? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, Moses killed a man, right? And I'm like, no, but okay. So he's like, well, Moses killed a man, and he repented for his sin. So if you killed this man, you need to tell us and repent for your sins. Da 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 da. So I'm like, what does Moses have with me getting this lie detector test to prove my innocence?
So you're not hooked up at this point, and this is what he said?
No, they never hooked me up to this lie detector test. Never. So this is my second time coming to take this lie detector test, but they never hooked me up to it.
Okay. So
they finally quit badgering me about the Bible and about God and, me admitting that I committed a crime, and they let me go again. I leave again.
But no test? They didn't. What was the reason they didn't do the test?
They never gave it to me. They never gave me a reason or nothing why they didn't give me the second test.
Were you asking?
They never gave me no reason.
Why are you not doing this?
I'm
trying to clear my name.
I literally asked them, I'm like, y'all going to hook me up to this machine? Y'all going to do this? And they're like, no, we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. So they left me sitting there for like 2 hours. So finally, I gotta use the bathroom. I gotta pee.
So at this point,
I tell them,
this point, James, are you thinking that they're going to leave you alone and that they believe the fact that you didn't do this?
I'm like, yo, I don't know what's going on in my mind. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just ready to go. I'm tired of sitting here. If anybody's ever been around the police long enough, you just get tired of being around them because they always try to make you out to be a bad guy and a liar. So they're trying to make me look like a liar. But I finally asked him, I said, look, are y'all going to lock me up or am I free to go? Because I got to pee. And the man looks at me and he's like, well, you're not under arrest. And the chief of police, he comes in there, he's like, no, you're not under arrest. He said, you need to use the bathroom. I'm like, yeah. So he takes me in there and I use the restroom. So when I come out, B.T. Sullivan's standing there. He's like, he's free to go. So the chief of police, he takes me home and drops me off. He takes me to Thomas's and drops me off. So now,
who dropped you off?
The chief of police.
Is there any conversation between the two of you on the way?
Yeah, I asked him, I'm like, why didn't they give me the lie detector test? He's like, man, I don't know. This is weird. He said, I've never seen this before.
Have you did you ever get any record that you went there both times?
No, I haven't never even had a discovery. I never got a motion of discovery. I never got anything. I tried to tell this to my lawyer, and my lawyer just, he paid me no attention. So I've never had the actual paperwork in my hand saying that I went twice to take a lie detector test.
Is there any record of that? Was there anything signed? Could the chief of police, verify that you were there and that they took you home?
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
I'm sure that if we could actually find him and talk to him, that he could possibly, if he could remember it,
right?
He could possibly verify it. But everybody's memory of this situation may not be as vivid as mine because they haven't lived it for 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
He got you.
They haven't woke up every.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, James.
They got me. Oh, yeah. They don't wake up every day living this. For the past 20 years, they haven't woke up like, damn, I'm sitting in prison for something I didn't do.
Yeah.
You reliving it every day.
Right.
So he takes me home. He takes me home and he drops me off. So, I'm going to work and working and stuff. And one day, my cousin Thomas, they just come to his house and I'm in the bedroom one night. Well, it was night. It weren't day. It was night. I believe it was April 26th. So they come to his house. They're beating on the door. So my cousin Thomas's girlfriend at the time, Kim, she goes and opens the door. So they're like, I can hear him. I'm in the middle bedroom. They're like, is James Conley here? And she's like, yeah, he's in the bedroom asleep. And they're like, okay, is Thomas Earl Smith here? And she's like, yeah, he's back there in the bedroom. And they're like, who are you? And she's like, I'm Kim. I'm Thomas's girlfriend. And then they're like, is that marijuana we smell? And she's like, yeah. We were smoking a joint. And they're like, oh, well, we got to search the home. We got to search this house because for suspicion. So I guess she lets them in because I never come out of the room. I'm listening. And we had a pit bull in the house named Jay. So Jay comes to the bedroom door where I'm at, and she's like nudging the door. So she's letting me know somebody's at the door. So I opened the door and I let her know that, I know that somebody's out there. So I'm sitting in the room and I'm thinking they're supposed to come in there and get me or something. So I hear them storming the house or in the trailer and they walk straight past my bedroom. So I hear him go back to Thomas's room, and when they go back there, they're asking him questions. Is James Conley in this house? And he's like, yeah, y'all just passed his room. And they never say nothing else about me. They're like, we smell marijuana. We need to search this house. So they search the house. So while they're searching the house, they find a safe. He had a little safe. And in the safe, they find some money. They find like $3,600. They find 2 ounces of white powdery substance believed to be cocaine. They find, I believe it's like 6.5 ounces of a vegetable-like substance believed to be marijuana. Some scales, some Tylon scales, and a .38 pistol. So they take him and take him to the Pembroke Police Department. And Kim follows him to the Pembroke Police Department. So they don't never come in the room to get me nothing. So they ask him questions, and he gives them a statement about my whereabouts and all this. Now, I didn't know that they had already talked to him before, and his mother, my Aunt Dinah, my mama's sister, had went to the Pembroke Police Department and talked to him. And the story that he told them was the same story that I told him.
Okay.
And we had never coerced the story. We never coerced my whereabouts, none of that. So I didn't even know that they had talked to him prior to talking to me in between those lie detector tests. I didn't know this. So he gave them the same exact story, same exact statement. So now on April 26th, he changes his statement.
Do you think maybe that's why they didn't do the lie detector test, is because they had spoke to somebody that was close to you that gave them a statement that, gave you, clearance
An alibi.
an alibi saying that you weren't there. So maybe there was something that prevented them at that point from following through with the lie detector test.
And that possibly could be true. I don't know. And like I said, I had never talked to them, or I didn't even know he had talked to them.
How did you find out that he talked to them?
After I was in the county jail, my lawyer come and talked to me and told me, hey, your cousin Thomas has given a statement implicating you as a person of interest. So I'm
wait,
like,
you said
a person of interest.
Wait, before you said he gave a statement giving you an alibi as to not being a person of interest.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, on the 26th of April, he changed his story from giving me an alibi to stating that I was the person that committed the crime.
Your cousin?
And, my cousin Thomas.
Okay.
So, when I was told this, I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why it went from, you told the truth that I was at the house the whole time. We watched these movies and we did this, to now you're saying I'm the person that committed a crime that I didn't commit. You're saying that I killed this man.
So now, 20 years later, looking back, do you know why he changed his statement? Gave multiple statements, 2 different ones?
Yes, I know why. Because he come out and told the truth. But I'm going to lead y'all into that.
Okay.
And explain how all that come about.
Okay.
Right. Now, after he gives this second statement.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
After he gives this second statement, 2 days later, I call Well, let me back up. Now, when this is all going on, when they're asking about, what happened, and they're investigating this story, they're saying that, the victim busted my car window out, and that I had sold drugs to him, and we get in an altercation, and he busted my window out, and that they got three different scenarios. They said that he stole my dogs because I had a lot of pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my best friend raised pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
And my dogs cost a lot of money. So they were saying, hey, he stole Mr. Conley's dog, so Mr. Conley hunted him down and killed him. Then they said that me and him got in an altercation over him stealing some drugs from a guy named Leonard O'Bullard and Michael Locklear. And they said that I was paid $50,000 to kill this man. Then they said that me and him got in an altercation because I sold him drugs. He didn't pay me, and we got in a fight, and he busted out my car window, so I killed him over my car window. And then they said that
But wait
he
a minute.
robbed me.
So, all these scenarios,
All
going
these
back,
scenarios-
going back, you discussed in growing up how you would fight. You were never one to shy away from physical altercation or fighting somebody. So any of those scenarios makes me question, why would you not have fought somebody in that situation? Why would you have went to the extreme of pulling a gun out and killing somebody? It just seems very not typical.
That's what, like, all my family, that's what anybody that knows me, that's what their question has been for 20 years. You're saying, Pig has went and killed somebody, when we know Pig, he will fight. Whether he wins, loses, or draw, he's going to fight. That's how he was raised.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, oh, he went and killed this man because he stole something from him, or because he done something, and then they go to the extreme of saying, oh, Pig is a hit for hire. He was gave $50,000 to kill this man.
How many
Hell, if I
times
had
in your life
$50,000,
how many times in your life would you say you pulled a gun on somebody? I know you spoke earlier about pulling a gun on your dad, but besides that, has there ever been another point?
Other than my dad and me defending my mom at that time,
and how old were you at that time?
I was 13 or 14 years old.
Okay.
I feared my dad. I mean, my dad had beat me and put me in the hospital. I feared my dad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I fear him today, and he's dead,
And being 13, 14 years old, it wouldn't have been a fair fight for you to have fought your dad in that moment. So you did, pull a gun out. But other than that time, has there ever been any other moments where you've pulled a gun on somebody?
I've never, no. Okay. I can't remember a time that I've ever even pulled a pocket knife on somebody and cut somebody. Okay. I've always fought.
Okay.
So, now we're at the part where my cousin, he has changed his statement. So, like I said,
this is the cousin that you live with, correct?
Areas. They had,
This is the cousin that you live with.
Yeah, my cousin Thomas.
So the point that you found out he changed his statement, have you talked to him directly at this point?
No, I never knew. I had talked to him directly, but I never knew he had changed his statement.
Did he change his statement after the police came in, raided the house, and found drugs and other things in his possession?
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah, that's when he did it. That's what happened. When they found the drugs, they took him to the Pembroke Police Department that night. That is the same night that he's changed his statement. saying that I committed the crime.
After they found the drugs and the gun
And
and everything in his house and his
yeah,
possession.
yeah, and they let him. He comes home. They let him go home.
Okay.
Okay, now I got to tell y'all. My car window was busted out.
Okay.
My car window, my passenger side window was busted out,
Okay.
and they're saying this guy. One of the reasons they saying that I committed this crime is because they say I sold him drugs. We got in an altercation, and he busted my window.
Okay.
Okay, I showed Sebastian Veneziano, which was the Pembroke police detective. Me and my mom called Sebastian to Leslie's trailer park where me and my cousin Thomas lived.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
I showed him the glass in the driveway where I parked my car, where I had busted my window, my passenger side window, trying to pry it open. And because my door latches on my car, you could open them. If you pulled the latch, you could unlock the door. I had locked my keys inside of my car that night because I was high. I like I said, I drank and got smoked. So I locked my keys in my car, and I had a clothes hanger, me and my cousin Thomas, and we were trying to pry the window out a little bit to stick the clothes hanger down the side of the window and pull the door latch to unlock the door and get into my car. And the passenger side was the side that I could easily pry the window open and get the clothes hanger in. So while I was pulling out on it, and he was trying to maneuver the clothes hanger, I pulled too hard and the window busted. The window shattered on.
Was there anybody around when you did that?
Excuse me?
Was there anybody that witnessed you doing that?
Nobody but me and my cousin Thomas. I mean, we were out there in the yard.
You were at Thomas's house?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was at Thomas's house. So when me and my mom calls the Pembroke police, and we show them where the glass is in the driveway from the window. And he collects the glass samples from the driveway and, takes them. Because my mom actually called them. She's like, you need to tell these people about this. Because I wasn't going to say nothing. I wasn't going to say nothing about the window or nothing. I was just, I didn't really take this serious.
So in the case of the murder, they're saying that the window would have been busted out at Michael's, correct? Because that's where the altercation took place.
They're saying that we had an altercation and he busted my window out. I went and found a gun. I come back and caught him at Michael's and killed him.
Okay, so then the window would have been busted out at Michael's, but your window was busted out at Thomas's house.
And they're
saying they showed him the glass and everything.
And they got glass fragments from the yard at Thomas's house.
Yes, but they saying that they got these glass fragments from Michael's. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They're saying that they got glass fragments from Michael's,
which could
and
very
glass
well be the
fragments from
truth. They could have picked up glass from Michael's, but it wasn't your glass, is what you're saying.
That's right. I'm going to lead you up to that too.
Okay.
Because
what about the cars? Was your car the same kind of car, same make, model, year as the same car that was involved in the murder?
My car was similar. That from the pictures that they had, my car was a similar model. The only difference is the color. The color they're saying of the car that they have on camera, it was blue. My car was teal green.
So
in the back of the window that they saying my car was teal green.
Okay.
The car that they say that committed the crime was a blue. Another detail, they said that the car that committed the crime the person that committed the crime, had a Indian head in the back window of their car.
Like a decal.
Okay. Yeah, like a decal. My
Okay.
car never had tint nor any kind of decals on the windows.
Okay.
Never. So they made the statement, oh, he could have removed it. Well, damn, if I would have removed it, you would have still had glue residue from the tint or the decal stuck on the windows.
Okay.
You know?
And they said the car
But,
in the murder had tinted windows?
no, they never said nothing about tinted windows. They just talked about that decal.
Okay. But yours
Okay,
didn't
so
have no tint, no decal.
no, never. Okay, so now after they've done and talked to my cousin Thomas and he's giving this statement, they start posting my face all over the news, all over the newspapers. So my mom calls me again and tells me, she's like, baby, she said, they're looking for you. They're saying that you're armed and dangerous. If anybody sees you, to call the police or, proceed with caution, to, use force if they have to apprehend you. So I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. So I'm going back and forth to work. Like I said, I didn't take this serious. I really was like, man, they're full of shit. I haven't done nothing. I'm going to work. I'm coming home. I'm working every day. Now my mom contacts me and she tells me, so I'm like, okay, what should I do? So my mom's like, we need to call a lawyer. So we contact Carton Mansfield. So he's like, bring me $1,000 and I'll handle everything. So my mom takes him $1,000. So when he gets this money, he talks to me on the phone and he tells me, he says, Monday morning, I want you to come to my office and we'll go contact the SBI and the Pembroke Police Department and we'll turn yourself in. So I do as he tells me. I contact me and my mom goes and buys me boxers, socks, and T-shirts and some hygiene. And I go to the Robeson County Sheriff's Office and meet him and turn myself in. Mm-hmm. So when I walk in there, the SBI agent, B.T. Sullivan, with Sebastian Veneziano, they rushed me and put me in handcuffs and shackles in front of my mom. So we had done and agreed not to do this, but that's what they did. So they took me in front of the magistrate, and the magistrate gave me no bond. So he asked me how, my name and everything, and I told him, and he gave me a no bond. So they take me into jail. So Barton Mansfield tells me, oh, don't worry about it. I'll have your bond in a couple weeks. Da-da-da-da-da. So I'm in the county.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
Pretty much going through the motions.
Okay.
So as I'm sitting in county jail, I'm waiting on my bond. So they finally, after a month, they gave me a bond. They gave me a $70,000 bond. So we called a bondsman. My mom and them meets with them, and they're coming to get me on that following Monday, because my mom and them had to go to the bank to get the money. Mm-hmm. Well, my aunt was assisting. So that Saturday, they come and give me another charge of possession of firearm by a convicted felon. And that gave me a $25,000 cash bond.
Why would they give you that charge?
That's what they said, because the man was killed with a firearm, and that I was a felon from my juvenile record for the drug charge, the cocaine charge.
Oh.
They charged me with possession of a firearm by a felon. Okay. Now, now I'm sitting in the county. I sat in the county 2.5 years, from April the 24th to August the 29th.
So you had
I
just bonded
started
out, and as
trial.
soon as you bond out, basically, they give you another charge.
No, I never got a chance to bond out
Oh,
because I was
okay.
supposed to make bond that Monday. That Saturday before that, they gave me a $25,000 cash bond to put a hold on me, and that made it $35,000 cash for me to get out of the county jail.
Got it.
And, so ain't nobody got that kind of money.
Right.
So I'm sitting in the county. I sat in the county jail. My lawyer comes and sees me approximately 3 or 4 times within 2.5 years before trial. So he comes and asks me, would I take 22 years? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, take 22 years for this murder. And my investigators coming to talk to me about taking this time. And I'm like, for what? I didn't commit a crime. I haven't done anything. You're talking about spending 22 years of my life in prison, and I'm 22 years old.
Right.
So they're talking about this. I call my mom, and then my mom is talking about it, and she's like, son, if you didn't do this, what are you supposed to do? So my lawyer's like, well, the DA ain't necessarily said he'll take this plea, but I'm going to go and offer it to him and see what he says. So I tell my mom, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? They got me in here for murder. How am I supposed to get out?
Right.
And they're talking about giving me a life sentence without parole. And I'm telling my mom, I'm like, I want to fire this lawyer. I want to fire this lawyer. So my uncle Michael, he's like, no, keep the lawyer. I done paid Carlton Mansfield, because Carlton Mansfield built a big-ass house. And my Uncle Michael was an electrician, and he done all the electrical work in the house. And that was in exchange for my attorney fees for Carlton Mansfield to represent me.
Okay.
So my Uncle Michael was telling me to keep this lawyer. So while I'm in the county, my Uncle Michael stepped on a nail and caught gangrene, and they had to cut his leg off. So during this time, he gets really sick, and he died. So when he dies, I never hear nothing else from Carlton Mansfield. I never hear nothing else from Ricky Locklear, his investigator, regarding my case.
So your uncle died in the middle of all of this.
Yeah.
Do you know
When
if
my
he
uncle
finished
died,
the electrical on the house?
I know he did the electrical work on the house.
Okay.
I mean, my uncle's 2 sons helped him. My aunt can verify that he done the work. I mean, my uncle was a prominent electrician in Robertson County. So, after my uncle died, I never heard nothing else from him. So now, leading up to trial, I get ready to go to trial, and my lawyer has talked to me. We have prepared a trial strategy. We haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into the courtroom, and we start trial. We start that day picking the jury. Once we get the jury picked, the judge asked the DA, is they ready? And the DA is like, we didn't know that we'll pick a jury this fast. So the judge is like, can you call your first witness? And he's like, I don't have any witnesses here right now. So the judge is like, how long is it going to take you? The DA picks his phone up and calls the detectives and tell them, hey, we need to get these witnesses to court. So the DA tells the judge, I got my men out rounding up witnesses now. So we're sitting there after lunch. We start trial. My cousin Thomas comes in. He's one of the first witnesses they bring in. Okay, he gets up there and he tells them, he's like, I plead the fifth. I don't want the...
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
So now the DA says, Your Honor, Mr. Smith had some other charges. He's been charged with such and such and such and such, and he made a deal with us to testify regarding this case in exchange for leniency in these other cases. And the judge is like, Mr. Smith, have you been threatened, coerced, anything into testifying? And he says, and the DA stops and he goes up there and talks to my cousin. And when he talks to my cousin's like, no, ma'am, I've not been coerced, nothing, so on and so forth. So when the trial starts, they start asking him questions. Every question he asks him, he can't answer. So the DA takes the statement that the SBI handwritten for my cousin and gives it to him and tells him what to read. So he reads the statement. He tells him to turn it face down. He turns it face down, and he answers the question. And they do this throughout the trial.
Are they allowed to do that?
They do.
Isn't that coercing?
It's coercion and it's leading the witness. But if my lawyer does not object to it,
oh my goodness, who is your attorney?
They can do it. So my attorney never objected to this.
That's crazy.
My attorney never made no objection.
Okay.
So throughout the trial, every witness that got on the stand was done like this. Every witness. And every witness, every statement that was written was paraphrased and handwritten and typed up by the state and the SBI. So the way everybody that got up there and they would say, oh, I can't remember, the DA would say, well, would you remember if you were able to read your statement? Would that refresh your memory? And they would be like, yeah, I guess so. So he would grab a statement from the SBI agent. The SBI agent would hand it to the witness. The witness would start reading the statement, and they would answer the questions as the as the DA asked the questions from the SBI statement.
Oh my goodness!
So,
and your lawyer never once objected to this taking
my
place?
My lawyer never once objected.
Did you try and fire him throughout the trial?
I never tried to fire him because I didn't know that I could fire him. Hell, I didn't know nothing about, the legal system as I know it today. Right. Everything I know about the law, I learned in prison. So now, in trial, my lawyer is cross-examining Mr. Smith, Thomas Earl Smith. So at one point, he says, Mr. Smith, you saying that Mr. Conley meant to shoot the man, but he didn't mean to kill him. And my cousin Thomas is like, I never said that. And my lawyer reiterates, he's like, oh, you said he meant to shoot him, but he didn't mean to kill him. So the judge stops the trial. And she asked my lawyer, she said, Mr. Mansfield, I just want to be clear. Is this part of your trial strategy? And he says, well, Your Honor, I have no trial strategy. He said, our strategy is developing as we go. And she's like, well, you just implicated your client as the murderer of a crime that he said he never committed.
In front of the jury,
and he's like, well,
correct?
In front of the jury. So he tainted the jury. So, the judge, she allowed the trial to continue. So now, remind you, my lawyer never gave opening arguments. He never gave closing statements. He never did any of this. And I didn't know the key elements of opening and closing statements. I didn't know what it meant to, perjure your client. I didn't know that nothing about a client-attorney privilege before, studying the law. So my lawyer was selling me out the whole time throughout this trial. This is important. This is my life we're talking about.